How does a girl who was literally told she has no magic ability ends up drawing a spell that shakes the entire witch world? Turns out, it was never about bloodlines. It was never about being chosen. It was always just ink. This is Witch Hat Atelier, and trust me, you're gonna want to stay for every second of this one.
So the story opens with this girl named Coco, and right away, the story establishes something that feels very familiar. The idea that magic is something you're born with. Witches are special. Ordinary people can only receive magic, never use it. And Coco, like any kid who's ever wanted something she was told she couldn't have, grew up completely in love with magic anyway. There's this moment early on that I think is just beautifully written. When Coco was little, she went to a festival at a castle, and a mysterious person wearing a mask asked her if she wanted to buy a picture book about magic. And when young Coco asked what magic even is, this person said, and I'm paraphrasing, that magic is a miracle that brings color to this world. The Pegasus carriages that soar through the sky, the eternal spring that keeps water pure, even the cobblestones that glow when you step on them. And as if on cue, the cobblestone glows under little Coco's feet. That single moment hooked Coco for life. And honestly, it hooked me too. Because this series understands something really fundamental. Wonder is not childish. Wonder is the beginning of everything. But here's where the story gets clever. Coco's mom, trying to manage her daughter's expectation, says, if what you step on keeps glowing all the way home, then you can be a witch. And of course, it doesn't glow. Because Coco wasn't born a witch. Or was she? Because later, and this is the first big twist, Coco peeks through a door she was told not to open, watches a witch named Kifri at work, and realizes something that changes everything. Magic isn't cast, it's drawn. And that wand the masked person gave little Coco at the festival, it wasn't a wand, it was a pen. The entire foundation that Coco, and by extension we, were told about magic is a constructed myth. With the right ink and the right seals, anyone can use magic. It's not about being born special. It never was. This is such a good story hook, and the implications just spiral from there. Let me talk about Coco as a character because I think she's doing a lot of heavy lifting here and deserves some appreciation. She's not your typical shonen protagonist who's inexplicably talented from day one. When she first tries to draw magic, she struggles. The pen feels foreign. She's used to a wand, or what she thought was a wand. But here's the thing. Coco grew up in her mother's shop, tracing lines for ages. That muscle memory, that patience, that precision, it becomes her foundation. Her ordinary past is literally what makes her capable of magic. I love that. It's not just feel good message slap on top. It's structurally built into who she is. And what drives her isn't glory or power or destiny. It's her mother. Because of Coco's curiosity, because she drew a forbidden spell not knowing it was forbidden, her mother was consumed by it. That guilt is what powers every step of her journey. She's not here to become the greatest witch ever. She's here to fix what she broke. That's a much more personal, much more human motivation than most fantasy protagonists get. Okay, now let's geek out about the magic system for a second. Because Witch Hat Atelier clearly puts serious thought into this. Spells are composed of three elements: a sigil at the center, signs surrounding it, and a ring that closes the seal. The sigil determines the type of magic: fire, water, light, wind. The signs determine the form, size, and direction, and completing the outer ring activates the spell. There are four primary sigils: the primary tetrad, water, earth, levitation, and flame. Each has its own personality. Flame is the dangerous one. something formless that must be kept at the right size and balance or it goes wrong. This is a magic system where understanding matters. You can't just feel your way through it. You have to know what you're drawing and why, which feeds back perfectly into Coco's arc. Her curiosity and her love of knowledge aren't just personality traits, they're literally her magical superpower. Also, and this detail I found fascinating, the ink itself comes from silverwood trees. It's called woodcrore. The branches go silver white when healthy, black when withering. The ink is literally the tree's blood, drained and boiled down. And there's even an old legend that a silverwood tree fell in love with a witch and offered its blood as ink and its branches as a wand. That's quietly gorgeous world building tucked into what could have just been an exposition dump. Now, no story like this is complete without a shadow lurking in the background. And Witch Hat Atelier has the brim caps. They're dangerous. They use forbidden magic. They hide their faces behind ancient hats and masks, which is an interesting visual contrast to the witches who wear their hats as symbols of pride and restraint. And they've been active for at least 4 years, with the most recent forbidden spell being the one Coco accidentally drew. Here's what's interesting though. The Brim Caps apparently have something Kifri wants back. He's not just hunting them out of duty, it's personal. And the fact that the Brim Caps can recreate a lost form of healing magic, the twin vials, and ancient magic that was banned along with all magic that affects the human body, suggests they might not be entirely one-dimensional villains. That detail opens the door to moral complexity. Were all the bad things truly bad? Or did some good get thrown out along with the harmful? One of the Brim Caps was watching Coco during her first test, and their comment, "the seed has sprouted," implies Coco is significant to their plans in a way she doesn't know yet. She might be tied to them. And the picture book that started everything, the one the masked stranger gave young Coco, Kifri is already following that trail. The conspiracy is slow building, but every thread feels intentional. I want to spend a moment on the other apprentices, because they're doing a real character work even this early. Agot is probably the most immediately compelling. Her philosophy, and I think this is directly stated, is that she hates being around people who can't do what she can do, because she gains nothing from them, which sounds cold. But then you learn why she's so driven. Her family descends from an apprentice the three sages left their memories to. They've been librarians for ages. She's carrying a legacy. She's not just proud. She's afraid of falling short of something enormous. And there's this observation I found really perceptive in my notes. Agat is too focused on the frustration of what she can't do rather than the joy of what she can. She's rushing. Toward what exactly? That question is going to be interesting to watch unfold. Then there's Riche, who is almost the philosophical opposite. She doesn't want to draw magic she doesn't like just because someone tells her to. She doesn't care if her skill set doesn't grow. If being a grown up means doing things you don't want to do, she'd rather stay the way she is. Agot hates staying the same, Richie resists change. Put them in the same atelier and you've got a built-in ideological tension that the story can mine indefinitely. And Tetya, she's described simply as having a glowing attitude, which is honestly perfect. Not every character needs to carry heavy thematic baggage. Sometimes you need the one who just loves being there. Let me pull back and talk about what this series seems to be about on a deeper level. There's this line about the witch's robe and hat that struck with me. The robe is a proof that you're a witch, a source of pride. But the hat is described as a restraint you wear on your head to keep you from abusing magic. And the promise is, as long as you wear it, don't forget its weight. The witch hat will always be watching over your magic. That's not a small idea. The series is deeply interested in the relationship between power and responsibility, not as an abstract lesson, but as something built into the culture, into the clothes witches literally put on their bodies every day. And the forbidden magic rules reinforce this. Magic that directly affects the human body or mind is always forbidden. Even drawing magic directly on the body is forbidden. The only exception is erasing memory. And that exception exists specifically to protect the secret of how magic actually works, which itself is only a secret to prevent people from being hurt by it. The system isn't perfect. It's a structure built out of fear after something went wrong. And the brim caps are, at least in part, a consequence of what was lost when the structure was put in place. So, what do I think of Witch Hat Atelier so far? I think it's doing something rare. It's a fantasy that takes its rules seriously, takes its characters' emotions seriously, and trusts its readers and audience to sit with complexity rather than rushing toward easy answers. Coco's journey isn't about becoming the most powerful witch in the world. It's about a girl who loves something so much she broke it, and now she has to learn, really learn how to make it right. The magic system is elegant. The conspiracy is layered. The characters are human in the best way. And the art, even just from the descriptions of glowing cobblestones and silverwood trees bleeding ink, suggests something visually stunning that earns every page, every episode. I'm genuinely excited to see where it goes. And if you've been sleeping on this one, I hope this convinced you to give it a shot. Let me know in the comments. Have you read and watched Witch Hat Atelier? What stood out to you? I want to hear all of it. Thank you for watching. I hope you love this breakdown, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.